Hearing has not changed. What has changed is your sense of understanding what you hear, of making meaning of it. That is, that aspect of your mind or psychic apparatus that is connected to the sense of hearing, or likewise to the sense of seeing, that allows you to make meaning of what you are perceiving. The perceptions are there, but the understanding of the perceptions have been attacked. In a fantasy, that part of your apparatus, and this we have to really make an effort to try to imagine it, or to put ourselves in the skin of a psychotic, that you can expel your making meaning of hearing, your consciousness of hearing. You can fragment it, you can split it into many splinters, expel it, and project it into an object in the outside world. Bion gives one example that he took from a patient back then, that was a patient who projected his sense of hearing, his psychic apparatus of hearing and understanding what he was hearing onto or into the gramophone, and then had the delusion that the gramophone was spying on him. You see, that is the omnipotent is the result, I would say, of the omnipotent fantasy of attacking your consciousness related to a perception and expelling it and projecting it into an object. Now, what a bizarre object is, the gramophone that is spying on the patient, that is an example of a bizarre object. Right? This is now the gramophone per se. The patient still knows that this is an external object, but it's an external object that is now doing something. It's become animated. It's an external object that from the perspective of the patient has the ability to spy, which a gramophone doesn't. So it's been altered for what's been added to the object. Now, not only is the gramophone able to spy on you, but if you, the patient, were very angry at the reality that your senses were informing you, you didn't only fragment and expel your consciousness related, let's say, to hearing or seeing or any other awareness, you also expelled your angry feelings together with these fragments of your mental apparatus that make sense or allow you to make sense of things. Therefore, this is not only a gramophone that can spy on you, but it's an angry gramophone that is spying on you very maliciously, and you feel persecuted by this awkward object without realizing that you've created it. You now have an hallucination.
Wouldn't the expelling of the emotions indicate that there was a conscious awareness of what had occurred?
Oh yes, sure.
So this isn't so the person isn't actually gaining there's not a foreclosure of consciousness. At some level this stuff gets registered before the senses are attacked.
Before. But once the bizarre object has been created, once the senses and your awareness, your ability or your psychic apparatus that makes you aware of things has been fragmented, along with your angry feelings. You hate now your psychic apparatus because it's bringing you some news that you don't want to hear. You fragment it with hate and you expel it into the gramophone. Then you're no longer aware of that which made you mad. What you are aware now is that there is an angry gramophone angrily spying at you, and it's there to get you.
But isn't maybe it's an extension of your point? I think somewhere in the chapters the point is made, I think it's Bion's belief, that the loss of touch with reality is never absolutely complete, and therefore analysis is possible, because it is the utilizing of that concept that allows the reintegration of not reintegration, it's a re-acknowledging, I suppose,
Yes.
of
A realization.
of the I don't know, of the expulsion having taken place. So, did I capture it? But the whatever prompted the minute fragmenting and expulsion and projecting into what then becomes a bizarre object doesn't represent a total collapse of loss of touch with reality.
Right. Which then Bion extends into positing what? And this Bion had the realization that even the most schizophrenic of the patients he treated had still a little bit of a sense of reality, that the withdrawal, the loss of reality was not complete. Actually, it was Freud who realized that 50 years before Bion realized that the reality never gets totally lost. Freud has a line in one of his articles saying that when a psychotic patient, he had a psychotic patient recovering, and the psychotic patient who was totally deluded said that in his worst times of delusion, in the corner of his mind, he was still knowing what was going on, but only in a corner of his mind, right? Now, Bion takes that to say what about the coexistence of the two personalities?
That they do coexist, that we have both, all of us.
That we both have, all of us, that a psychotic personality coexists with a non-psychotic personality. And that in a psychotic illness, there is still, and the therapist has to be aware, another personality or another part of the mind, if you wish. Let's say personality, ego, psyche, apparatus. For our purposes, we can use them all as synonyms, right? That there is also a non-psychotic part of the personality. And Bion goes further, though Blandoni is not that sure. He says that Bion hesitates a bit. I think Bion in the beginning thought that you're either psychotic or non-psychotic, but in his first writings, as he went on analyzing schizophrenics, and non-schizophrenics, neurotics, he realized that neurotics have also moments in which they function psychotically, all of us actually.
So we're all one big stressor away from a psychotic brain.
That's encouraging.
I would put it this way, both personalities or both modes of functioning, which Bion calls personalities because he attributes these different modes of functioning, right? The attack on the psychic apparatus to fend away the realization of reality, and we also have the neurotic mechanisms. The neurotic mechanisms is that you deny, for instance, right, as you were saying, and you take in, but you say that can possibly be true, but that's not psychotic, right?
That's neurotic.
That's neurotic. Or you repress, right? You know it, and then you forget it. But it comes back. It may come back in a dream, right? And when it comes back, you don't attack your psychic apparatus. You say, oh, I must have forgotten that for good reasons. I probably didn't like that and I forgot it. But when it comes back, it doesn't come back as a delusion. It comes back from your inside. You repressed it, you didn't destroy it, you didn't destroy the awareness, you just repressed it, you put it away. You said, let's put it away and we'll get back to that at another time, not now. Therefore,
Robert?
excuse me, therefore you didn't damage your psyche.
Okay.
Your psyche is intact, you didn't damage it. You can still dream. You can have a slip, for instance. It may come back in the form of a slip, but not in the form of a delusion.
So the gramophone's not out to get me.
Exactly, the gramophone's not out, but you, at a certain point, right, you may, let's say, you hate a particular person in a moment, but you also like this person, so you repress your hate. Now then you don't understand how it is that you broke a beautiful vase that this person gave you for your birthday. You say, well, how could that happen? Well, that's the way it happens. Your hate comes back, and then you realize, well, you know, actually I was mad. I was expecting a different sort of gift. I didn't like that vase that much, however beautiful it may be. Therefore I broke it. But you didn't break your apparatus. You see, your apparatus is intact. You didn't go psychotic. You didn't think that the vase was there to attack you, nor that your friend wanted to offend you with it. You just acknowledge that this was not what you expected. But since you have more tolerance of frustration, you don't need to destroy your own apparatus. You can just repress that you didn't like it, and then, surprise, surprise, you broke it, or you lost it. Right? Judy?
In the section where he's talking about preconditions
Yes?
for psychosis, he talks about premature and precipitate formation of object relations. Is that the same as what Melanie Klein refers to, a premature fusion of the life and death instinct, not a healthy splitting and fusion, but a premature one, so that there is more of a sadistic?
I hadn't thought of that. I think it could be.
What page is she referring to?
What page are you referring to?
Oh,
This
you know
probably-
where he talks about, I wrote it down, so I'm not in the book, but in chapter 13, when he
Yes.
lists the different, page of 119,
Mhm.
he lists 4 preconditions for psychosis, and one of them, the last one, which
Premature.
we didn't talk about, is that premature and precipitate formation of object relations.
Yes.
So I was wondering if
Yes,
it was the
all
same
of
as...
which I think he also defines as phenomenologically observable when you treat a psychotic patient, that is, the prematurity of the transference, that is, that the patient immediately makes some sort of very powerful relation to you, not even not always a good one, actually most of the times a very bad one, but immediately endows you with something through his constant and powerful projections, right? This happens prematurely because of the urgency that the patient has to project his mind and his awareness and his unhappiness or his pain out. So he would project onto anybody he can project, among others, the therapist if he happens to come to see a therapist. But he would do the same thing with anybody else, not just with a therapist. It's tenacious, Bion says, meaning it doesn't go away, it doesn't relent, it's holding on there, right? It's really grasping you. And it's very fragile at the same time. It always seems to be about to break, right? It almost seems that at any moment the patient is never going to come back, is going to forget about you, but it never happens, right? Now, why this occurs is because of the anxiety of the patient, because the patient is fighting a terrible anxiety from within. What you mentioned early on, the sense of imminent annihilation. Something is here to kill me. I feel that I'm about to die. I'm going to destroy myself, or something is destroying me from within. I need to project that onto my objects in order to get rid of it. When I project it onto my objects, I want to flee. Remember the fight-flight basic assumption that we were talking of, where that would be the fight-flight basic assumption applied to an individual clinical picture, right?